Hi, Michelle from United States. Yeah, thank you for your question, um, or for my thoughts about the situation in many communities that are holding nonviolent communication as very precious and dear, and you observing, noticing many disconnections happening in those communities. The communities that are focused on nonviolent communication, on communication, on creating connection. And then that's where you experience so many disconnections between specialists, professionals, and who seem to be, each of them believing they're actually doing, they are actually walking their talk, they're actually practicing what they preach. But somehow it doesn't seem that it really helps creating connections. And I'm imagining that brings up some doubts and helplessness in you and disheart and like, wow, they really want to be part of that movement or part of that communities. Yeah, so, and you asked me to share my thoughts on that. Yeah, first I want to bring myself in that I believe I also notice quite a lot of disconnect in those communities that I am part of. And I also want to say that I notice even more and way more of connection in these communities. For instance, most of my closest personal friends are from the nonviolent communication communities. And I have so much trust and so much, just so much inspiration from these communities. So I just want to bring that in. The reason why I'm doing this is because I noticed that it seems that we have been trained or conditioned in some sort of a mechanical way of thinking. I'm not saying that that's how you are thinking, but it's kind of a generalizing here a bit. Mechanical, I mean more, like an engineering, like looking at the machine, and then machine doesn't work, and then suddenly, we just seek for the problem. What's wrong with that machine? Let's fix it so it will continue working. And it's almost like this tendency to search for what's wrong. And I want to just bring this appreciation of very often unseen and unacknowledged aspects of reality, which have so much beauty in it, and so much just heart and love. So just want to bring that in. And another thing I want to say is that in my understanding, what you are describing doesn't go only for the nonviolent communication communities. I believe we can observe this everywhere. We can observe that in communities or organizations that are bleeding for environment, and they're like activists and environmentalists, are really big hearts, really want to support the planet and life, and they're having incredible fights and incredible disconnections and conflicts between them. Or let's say spiritual groups, many spiritual groups that will have, it's all about love and presence and compassion, and yet they have loads of conflicts, and very often they fall apart. And also, as they say, eco-villages, when people really want to come together and create something completely new. And what I heard is that no eco-village ever fell apart because they wouldn't know how to handle solar systems, let's say, or how to plant veggies. But they always fall apart because of relationships, even though they had this biggest passion for love and connection. And the reason, in my understanding, why this is happening is because, again, we have been so deeply conditioned in a certain way of relating to each other, like a disconnecting language, using that. But not only that, not only how we relate to each other, but also how we perceive each other, how we perceive ourselves, how we perceive life, how we interpret it on a very, very basic level. So that all needs to be changed in order for or transformed, in order for our visions to be manifested. So for me, it seems like not like changing the applications, like changing, instead of violent communication, let's have nonviolent communication. It's not just about changing the application or the language. It's about changing the operating system, the core paradigm of how we perceive our own existence. And that, in my understanding, takes time. And that takes loads of transformative learning, loads of healing. And we, of course, are all full of our scars and wounds and traumas, if you wish, and pain, and that gets activated by others. So in one way, I see this as an intimate relationship. We could also say, like, why are you people, fighting, arguing with each other? Don't you love each other? Of course we do. Of course we do. There is so much love. And we are activating. My persona gets activated. My fears that have nothing to do with my partner get activated, and they react. And then I very often will communicate for half an hour, for 1 hour, for half a day, in a way that's really not in alignment with what I actually share in my NVC trainings. So taking that all together, I have lots of understanding and compassion for this situation. What I believe would be really helpful is to have some sort of organically grown system in place about what do we do when a disconnection happens. And I imagine that in many communities that's not available. And it's almost like, again, like in an intimate relationship. We totally love each other. We are fully loving each other. And it is likely we will be activated. We will be triggered by each other. What are we going to do then? Let's agree on something. Shall we take time? Shall we call in the third person? What are we going to do? What are the inner and outer resources that we can turn to when the disconnection will happen? Because it is very likely going to happen. So I believe that, working on our own cases and also sitting together and just trying to talk like, hey, what are we going to do? This is happening. We don't like that. How are we going to handle it? And then check in after, like 2 months ago, we decided that. Does it work or it doesn't? Okay, so what are we going to change? And learning as we are moving slowly through this mystery of life. I hope that's meaningful. What I had in me to share with you, and so be well.